Welcome to the astrology report for the week of the 27th of November through to December the 3rd. This is an historical week. There's something happening in our sky that we haven't seen since 1763, and it's very important. This matters. It matters for your life, of course, because it's the first time this has happened to you based on your sun, moon, and especially rising sign. It matters for the world because we haven't seen it for so darn long. So we're going to talk about how this rare sky is playing out for each of us this week ahead. And we're going to bring it down to some politics, some geopolitics and world events back in the 1700s, also throughout the 1900s. And then we're going to bring it into the story of you. So we start off with mundane astrology, and you could skip ahead and just jump to your sign if you don't care about how this impacts the greater world. My name is Lori Lothian. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. I use the Western tropical zodiac, whole sign houses, fixed stars, and the minor asteroids. If you like that kind of stuff, please don't forget, you can try me out. There's a like button for sure. Subscribe, and there's that little bell down there that you hit that you are notified of when I'm putting out new content, which is 25 to 30 videos every single month. So if that kind of update on the regular is interesting to you, jump ahead, get in now. Just a short promotion. I'm not going to spend much time here. 2024 all sign videos are 75 to 90 minutes long for your rising sign, sun and moon. This is my yearly fundraiser. This information never goes public, and you can get that now at $49 for all 12 signs. It's called The Bundle. It's a pre-order sale delivered on December 2nd into your inbox. So if that price is exciting for you, stocking stuffers for friends and family at Christmas, you can take this product. It's got like links to 12 unlisted videos, and you can share it with people as well in your life, friends, family, and yourself. That's why this bundle is so affordable. And yes, I will sell individual sign downloads after December 3rd, but it's still more cost effective to grab this bundle. It will be $77 later on. Okay, let's get rolling. So first of all, I'm recording this early for my Patreon community who gets early access ad-free. And so if you like that kind of stuff, I'm recording on November 26th. You guys get this on the 27th. There's also in my description box. Okay, let's talk about Venus. Let's talk about the South Node. Let's talk about Pluto. Venus, South Node, Pluto, massive stories going on in our sky this week. Now, first of all, Venus is the goddess of love, beauty, but also peace and harmony, balance and equilibrium, especially in the sign of Libra, where she is traveling. This is her home kingdom. She's strong here. She's got all the power. She knows what she wants. She knows how to get it. She rules the day. So we should think this is a positive time as Venus moves this week through her home kingdom of Libra, and is going to sneak up on the 24th degree on the 29th of the month, which is, depending on your time zone, Wednesday. And we should go, wow, Venus is 24 degrees on Wednesdays, and this is a good thing. Not really. She's co-joining with the South Node of Fate that looks like a horseshoe. This is where eclipses happen. The South Node, also known in Indian astrology or Vedic as Ketu, is where things get eliminated, flushed down the drain, disappointment happens. I just cast a horary chart for a football game for somebody, and I was right. I said the team is Venus, but conjunct the South Node, disappointing results. Horary is predictive astrology using divination. So I don't like Venus South Node. I don't think it's going to feel collectively necessarily positive, but personally, you and me might find it deeply spiritual and transformative. So Venus is going to bump into that South Node in the sign of Libra. The South Node, North Node axis has begun to move through the Libra corridor and the Aries corridor ever since July of 2023 through to January of 25. This means this is at least an 18-19 year rare event. But it's even rarer than that. And this is where we're getting into it. But let's talk about Venus, South Node, for a second, just by itself, without Pluto. Venus would be like, here's some peace. Here's a peace treaty. Here's some love. Here's some money. South Node is disappointment, loss, letting go, surrender, moksha, liberation. This is where you can get some deep spiritual love. If you met somebody under a Venus South Node transit and you were starting to date, it could be a very soulmate-y new relationship. So it's not all bad. But most of us want the perks in life. We want to have the money, the fame, the glory, the power, the white picket fence, all the things that make the Matrix worth coming back to. Like Cypher in the Matrix wanted to have the steak, cigar, and wine, so he didn't care if it wasn't real. It felt really good. So Venus loves her pleasures as well. And you're letting go of those pleasures. You're letting go of those perks and temptations. There's a surrender. Now, in the world, right? Venus does rule in Libra, harmony and peace, such as peace treaties or alliances where people form a group of we're all on the same page alliance, like the BRICS nations who are all banding together to create their own economic alliance. Those countries are like a Libran story. And so we're going to think in the world, wherever we have a potential for peace, could it happen? So there's a situation of a war in the past with Russia. I don't want to say these words too much. I don't like the shadow banning that happens here, but we may actually see potentially the emergence of some sort of treaty around a resolution around that conflict coming up over the next week or two. Possibly. But I'm going to tell you about historical context here as well, because if Venus is about Libra, balance, peace, and harmony, and there's an energetic letting go, then I'm also thinking about the opposite, where we lose the peace instead of gain the peace. Now, later in the week, and I'm going to give you some much more detail here. Later in the week, she's going to bump into Pluto. That's on the weekend. So that's going to start being felt Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And as she comes into a square to Pluto, who is direct at the 29th degree at the very tail end of the sign of Capricorn, we can really expect something pretty intense there as well. And this is what makes this rare, not seen since 1763 event true. So back in 1763, Venus co-joined with the South Node in every 18, 19-year event. But at the same time, Pluto was also in Capricorn. So we're going to talk a little bit about the history of 1763. What happened back then? Well, that was when they had the Treaty of Paris, which was the end of the war between England and France for territory in North America. The whole year closed out the 7-year war called the French Indian War. The British colonists of the 13 colonies and their representatives, England, had borrowed a lot of money in order to fund a war to push away the Spaniards, by the way, out of the South Florida. They did grab that, but mostly against the French. At the end of the day, the French lost and the British won, and therefore the 13 colonies of the United States won the day. So that sounds wonderful, right? That happened in February of 1763. Wouldn't that be great? Everybody's won, the pieces, we have peace. And mostly it was the British colonists feeling now secure in their colony vis-a-vis Britain's declaration, we've got you guys, there's no more French problem. And that was that. So that should have been great. But what it led to in the decade that followed was the revolution, right? The American Revolution. Because to pay for the war, France began to tax the American colonists because they'd borrowed so much to fight the French people off, the French nation off the land. But what happened in 1763 in particular was this proclamation, the proclamation of 1763. It happened right at the time in the fall when what was happening? Venus was on the South Node squaring Pluto and Capricorn. Venus and Libra, South Node, square Pluto and Capricorn. Well, that became the beginning of the end. The colonists didn't like it. The proclamation said, you can't cross the Appalachian line. We're putting a line here because there's Indians over there. Indigenous peoples live over there. And we don't want you to go to war to them because we have no more money for war. And by the way, we're going to start taxing you in a couple of years, the T stamp and the tax stamp to pay for this war that we did for you guys, right? So it was the beginning of an unraveling. But that proclamation was a boundary line. So I want to think, in our current time frame, what could happen in the world where there is a declaration of a cutting off, a boundary line, and some people don't like it? Some people don't want that boundary to be there. So when we have war, we have boundaries, right? What's the new cutoff line? So back then, it was like you can't cross the Appalachians and you can't go westward and you can't start colonizing the West because we don't want you to go to war. We also don't want you to get land that you're going to start farming and being independent from England, but we also don't want you to go to war with the Indian nations because we can't afford it. And we want to hold secure the 13 colonies. So I'm going to ask you, I'm not going to answer the question, where can we find something going on during this time, during, November of 2023 into December, where the issue will be a proclamation or decision or declaration by some body of governance around a hard ass boundary that people are not agreeing with who are involved in the boundary decisions. Okay, so that can be any place in the world where there has been conflict and war. Now, one of the things I want to talk about, and I want to tell you, don't listen, If it's upsetting to talk about global conflict for you, don't listen. That's okay. But I do like history. I'm a bit of a historical. I was always a history. Like when I was in high school, I had like 99% in history. I love history. I love learning about what happened and trying to figure out what might happen again. So I'm going to talk about the history of Venus co-joining with the South Node when it comes to the formation of the state of Israel and what has happened in those prior times when Venus South Node came together. Because you see, Israel was created as a Libra rising, and Venus is going through Libra with the South Node. So the Libra ascendant or rising sign of the state of Israel, as formed in 1948, is being impacted every time Venus and South Node come together. Now, to be clear, I am not taking a side on a conflict. I'm talking about the astrology. So I know I get a lot of comments sometimes about what I'm seeming to, favor, or how I don't note this side's, story. That's not true. I'm telling you what's happening in the astrology of the world, and that you like that, great. If you don't, you can jump ahead and you can move to your sign after the premiere, of course. And by the way, if you're in the live premiere watching me and we're talking about this together on Monday the 27th, please consider hitting the like button. Now, before we talk about the world events, let me tell you one other thing. The sun on Libra 25, Venus on Libra 25. Libra 25 lifted up is a Sabian symbol for the 24th degree when we see this energetic intensity of the South Node and Venus together. And the Sabian symbol is the site, which is happening Tuesday, the site of an autumn, or Wednesday, the site of an autumn leaf brings to a pilgrim the hidden revelation of the mystery of life and death. The hidden revelation of the mystery of life and death. So where in your life in this week may you have this illumination from something as simple as the autumn leaf, which has fallen to the ground, and it indicates the time of letting go, releasing, of falling to the ground to die, no longer alive, but still beautiful. And there's a mystery to be discovered here, a deep, profound revelation. Now, one of the oracle sites that I'm using today, which is sabiansymbols.com, does say that this implies the ability or necessity of being able to see far more in simple things than most people see. Instead of an autumn leaf alone, the pilgrim sees the cycles of life, death, and the seed turning into the tree, the leaves turning into the autumn, etc. There's far more to see in the simple objects than is first apparent. And so it talks about seeing beyond the obvious and getting a glimmer of the numinous or the enchanted or the deeper meaning of things. It reminds me of that old, the cycle of life, the Disney song. Was that from The Lion King? Kind of reminds me of that, seeing something beyond maybe the atrocities, the horrors, and the decimations, and the gut-wrenching stories that we see in the news cycle right now, and seeing something much deeper and much more profound. So there also is some suggestion here of fleeting inspirations, philosophical minds, angelic visions possible around this energy from the Sabian Symbol site that I'm just addressing, sabiansymbols.com. Now, the other thing I want to mention here is Pluto and Venus together archetypally. So I'm thinking about you this week, coming into a crucible of Pluto, power, control, depth, in-depth, Venus, love, harmony, and balance, why we might all struggle in our money or love or harmony or peace in our lives, against some force, Pluto in Capricorn, that's demanding something of us. Quite often Pluto is tyrannical in his shadow side. And so we might come up against this deep intensity next weekend where we have to surrender, let go, and release something, because that is what the South Node is asking us to do. You could release a monetary situation, a love situation, a place that you thought you could get peace, but you realize no peace is available. It can be a dispute. It could be a long-standing problem with somebody that you have a love relationship with, and you may have to let go, let God. Basically. Okay. So now what I want to mention here, like, oh, let God is such a cliche, but it works in this case. Okay. My favorite book is Ren Butler's The Archetypal Universe. I will start up a little book list underneath I have books that I never travel without. And I'm going to start a little book list underneath my description box, where everything is, like my newsletter and all of that. So you guys can find these things easily. But when Ren Butler, a colleague, a teacher, a friend, a Canadian like I am, talks about Venus, Pluto in shadow. Why we say shadow? We say shadow because this is a square. Squares are difficult and hard aspects. Venus and Pluto, when it's like, say, trining or flowing in a sextile, can be like a power of love, rejuvenation, depth, deep stuff in love and money. Pluto, Venus, and flow can be a wealth yoga. But no, this is like intense energy. This is not easy energy to deal with. So let's talk about this darker side of it. He mentions that it is a tendency toward obsessive attractions, feelings of jealousy, possessiveness, passive aggression, manipulation, and a love of power. Okay, so absolute power corrupts absolutely. A love of power, because love, Venus, Pluto, power. He also goes on to a little bit more depth of what the darker side of this collective energy will be coming into Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And don't forget, it's spinning off the South Node conjunction, right? Overbearing sweetness, manipulative, passive aggression. But even he says, for instance, a Joan Crawford expression, senses of betrayal, being betrayed, right? Love is a fire, but whether it's going to warm your hearth or burn down the house, you can never tell. And that's Joan Crawford, who was born with a Venus-Pluto conjunction. Vulgar or coarse sexuality, the dark continent, mixtures of pleasure, and the perinatal plutonic themes of suffering, aggression, demonic energies, scatology, pyrocatharsis, transcendence, ambivalent attraction, repulsion, the dark side coming close. It is not a fragrant world, quote from Raymond Chandler with a difficult Pluto-Venus connection. It is not a fragrant world. Venus, fragrance, Pluto, putrid, rotting, and death. I hope you got the gist, okay? So, this is a world story, right? Because Pluto is transgenerational, transpersonal. When you were born, Pluto was in the same place for people born the same month as you. So when we see Pluto stories in the sky, to some extent, a lot of this has to do with the global situation. But, Venus South Node will be felt acutely for most of us around Wednesday, give or take a couple of days on either side, as a place where you just have to just let it go. I quit. I'm working too hard for all my money. I quit. I don't like this job. I don't like this friendship. I don't like this love relationship. Or I just let go of trying to make something happen with peace, harmony, balance, love, and just say, I'm done. A sayonara. And you don't have to do it it can be an inner surrender. It doesn't always have to be you're just going to quit the job. Maybe you quit caring about the job. Maybe you don't have to quit the relationship. Maybe you just don't grasp it so tightly. So let's go into the all signs shortly. But as we do this, let me show you the sky. And we're going to try to get a pen and paper. We're going to get done within the next 1 hour. That is my goal because I'm teaching a class in an hour, which is a really fun one called Find My Person. I have 50 people enrolled. I'm really looking forward to it. And so, and that will be available for resale if you want to know how to find your siblings, your parents, your children, and your spouses in the chart, in your own personal chart. So here we have the sky, and I'm showing you November 27th, which is Monday, and Cyber Monday. And as you can see here, we have Venus sitting here. I'm going to annotate for you just for fun. Annotate. We have Venus sitting here on Monday. Let's move it forward first. Oh, I don't have to. Venus will be here Monday at 21 degrees of Libra, okay? And the moon will be coming, by the way, Monday and Tuesday into a lovely flow to Venus. So I will tell you, most people will feel Monday and Tuesday pretty A-okay. I mean, you might have emotional security, lots of fun and play, more pleasure, sociability. You're not minding Monday and Tuesday, most of us, as this moon becomes trine into its relationship with Venus. But anyway, that's just sort of not it's kind of what is that? The quiet before the storm, or the frivolity and fun before the difficulty comes into play. We want to talk about, of course, the South Node, which I should have had in here. So let me just stop the share. Sorry, guys, I need to fix the chart. For some reason, I knocked the South Node out, and it's easier to just stop the share and start to re-annotate. My apologies, as always, but it's not a tech issue. It's just I'm real time with you, right? I'm just recording early in the morning, having just rolled out of bed. Okay, back to you guys. And we will do your all signs, I promise. We're going to be talking about where you need to surrender in love and money stories, but also where you may face some power struggles and need to really come up against something challenging on the weekend. All right. And I'm going to call this video something like, this really matters, and subtitle, Rare, 200-year rare event. All right. So here we have it. So I moved us forward now. And as you can see, Venus will be on the 29th in my time zone. So adjust for your time zone. But I'm in right now Eastern Daily Time. This is set for Pacific Daily Time. But you're going to feel this energy anyway. building Tuesday, Wednesday into Thursday as Venus and the South Node come into a collision. And it's actually at 24 degrees and 4 minutes. So you can do the numerology. That's a 1 for new beginnings, or a 10 for the Wheel of Fortune and Destiny, 4 plus 4 plus 2. But the energy here is where it's happening in relationship to the global events that I'm going to very briefly itemize. So don't forget, as the week rounds out, Venus comes into the square to Pluto at 28 degrees of Capricorn. No, that's a direct motion Pluto. He'll be back here next September, October into November. But this is the last time you're going to see Venus squaring Pluto and Capricorn until 2042. 2042. That's just why this is an extremely rare event. All right. Now, let's talk very briefly about a little bit of astrology to do with the world, to do with world events as it connects to the narrative of, and so this is what we'll be talking about in the all signs, this intense square and what it might mean. Don't forget, Israel here is a Libra rising. I should have probably shown that to you, but has its Libra rising, I think around 21 or 20 degrees of Libra. So this is impacting the nation of Israel for sure. There's no doubt about that. And let me tell you a few little details. Have you ever noticed, by the way, if you look at the 13 colonies of the United States and the slip of land and the shape of it along the continent of North America, it has a familiar look. It looks eerily like Gaza. Yes, it does. It's really strange. Now, I'm going to try not to get an algorithmic suppression here. I don't know that spelling works, but I'm noticing that there's a lot of difficulty when you talk about these world events right now, that there's sort of a kind of shadow ban going on many platforms about the content I'm about to discuss. I almost don't know how not to discuss it, because if I don't do astrology that is mundane, which is what I really love, and just tell about everybody's mood this week, it doesn't actually satisfy me, and I may as well just find another job. So let's get rolling. So back in 1949, 1949, year after Israel was formed by the United Nations, there was a huge amount of material going on about a whole bunch of treatises or ceasefires, or what do you call it, armistices, putting your arms down. Armistice agreements happened with Egypt, Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria. And that led to Israel now having a 22% wider landmass than it had. Before 1948. There was also, during that time, the expulsion of many people who were indigenous to that land, and they were pushed into another part of that part of the world. So there was a mass expulsion in 48 and 49, and there's a name for that, but I'm not going to say it. I'll get the shadow ban. So there's two things going on, but also there was an assassination attempt on the Prime Minister Ben Gurion by an Israeli brandishing a machine gun in the Knesset. So we also had a potential loss of the Prime Minister of Israel during that window of time. And that assassination attempt was actually very proximate to when the South Node and Venus came together in the fall of that year. So that was September, I believe. And so just be aware, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I need to tell you what has happened. And then in 1967 and in 1968, in December and then September, we ended up experiencing yet another Venus South Node conjunction. No, not about Pluto. Remember, Pluto's really rare. Pluto goes all the way back to the 1700s. So we're just talking about in this last 100 years. So I'm going to tell you a bit about that. And I grabbed my notes. So in 1968, September, which is really around the time this was occurring, the South Node Venus came together. There was a ceasefire of 11 months that collapsed. All right, so it's the end of a ceasefire situation. There was a war, it's called the War of Attrition, between Egypt and the nation of Israel. And the war erupted into a large-scale fighting as the Egyptian army began firing artillery shells against the Israeli positions and on the opposite side of the Suez Canal. All I'm saying is, long story short, September of 1968, Venus, the goddess of peace and harmony, South Node, ending, down the drain, disappointment. So, boom, we had the end of an 11-month ceasefire. That's why when I see Venus South Node, ascendant of Israel coming up on the middle of this week, I know there's an end to the already legislated or agreed upon break in hostilities, but I doubt that it's going to last. And this would be it really falling apart in a significant way. In 1987, when the South Node came back, so it was back in 86 and 87 in the fall, August and September of those years, but I'm just picking one of them. In 1987, September, the a prominent military counterterrorism operation by the Israeli people was carried out against the Palestinian militants on September 5th of that year. And 4 Israeli warplanes bombed 3 PLO guerrilla bases on the outskirts of the Palestinian refugee camp. I can't say it, in Lebanon. So now we see Lebanon getting mixed into the mix as well in 1987, as we see that counterterrorism operation playing out. And so 1987 was the incursion of a pull of, the conflict going off of the 2 lands that are fighting into another nation. So I'm worried about that this coming week, especially Lebanon. And then I'm sure all these words are going to get this troll band out of here, but I'm going to keep going. In 2005, okay, this is another time that South Node Libra came together, only once in 2005, and that was in August of 2005. So it's in August of 2005 that the Israel made the decision to leave the Gaza Strip. They pulled out, and they had 4 settlements there, and they got all the settlers out of there and evacuated by September something or other. And so this was the disengagement plan and the implementation of it to remove themselves from the Strip physically, to remove their settlements from the Strip and their physical military occupation of the Strip. However, just so you know, people ask me all the time, there is a pretty big consensus around the world that they are still there's still an occupation ongoing. And if you want to know why, it has to do with the fact that although some legal scholars do dispute this condition, even though there was a movement of physical control, there's still air and maritime space control over that strip of land by Israel. And there are 7 land crossings that are maintained, a buffer no-go zone, and all electrical, water, and telecommunications supplies are supplied by Israel. So there's no nation state autonomy. So in a way, and of course, there is no official airport, and there's also boundaries about how far the people of that landmass can leave by ocean without being arrested by Israel or Egypt. So long story short, they're kind of penned in there. So then military and legal scholars say this is still it's still a form of an occupation. Just saying, I'm not the scholar. It's consensus in the scholarly literature of what the definition of an occupation could be. Another word they're using is the same situation that was in South Africa. I'm not going to say the word of the South African situation. I'm trying my best not to have this algorithmic dumping out of this video so you don't get to see it for yourself. Let's go on and talk about the all signs story next. Let's move into your story, how this might impact you, what you might be getting going here. No, you're not about, the big themes. This is your individual sun, moon, and rising narrative. And I'll get a pen and paper. Maybe I don't know how long it'll be going for each sign. I'm hoping to give you a good deep dive as best I can. I put a video out, Venus moving through Libra as a rare event a few weeks ago, and that's still out there. And you can listen to what I've said in there as well. I may have covered a bit more, but I think this is going to be the one to listen to. I think this is where I'll have more depth than I do in the earlier video. And let's get rolling. And you're probably wondering what she's doing. She's moving the chart into place. We're going to go for Aries, always Aries first, because I am sun, moon, and rising, but also because we're the first sign of the zodiac. And there you go. It just makes sense. All right. Let's move into the all signs portion of this session. We'll be done in the next 50 minutes. So Aries sun, Aries moon, and Aries rising sign in the sky. What you're going to experience, it's not seen since 1700s, is the Venus South Node square Pluto energies this week, especially on Wednesday, where the South Node and Venus do come together in more perfection. I would suggest that that's going to feel like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in particular. Where are you as an Aries sun, an Aries moon, or an Aries rising, needing to let go of another person, another situation? Like, the 7th house can be your audience, your clients, your public, and your marketplace right here. But it can also be your business partners, and it can also be legal conditions that you've agreed to, especially in Libra, like you signed a contract, you made a vow. So you may want to break a contract. It could be a work contract. It could be a marriage contract. It could be some kind of legal situation that you want to disengage from, or is in disengaging from you. Now, so this, Venus can be somebody, a friend who's a female going through some kind of difficult time. It doesn't always have to be about you when it's a seventh house matter and they're going through a really gnarly week. So just saying, but because it is a house of those significant others in your life and they're opposite you, and then they're going through this crunchy, let go, let God surrender, you may be pulled definitely into the narrative. They may be facing some kind of Pluto issue where they're feeling, betrayed, or they're feeling like pulled into the underworld with their financial or money or financial or relationship stories. That said, if you are in a significant long-term relationship, especially if you're the Aries rising, okay, then this is a time in which there may need to be a deeper spiritual connection to find a more magical, mystical. Remember the Sabian symbol too, about that, the glimmer of the deep mystery of life and death. Is it connected to the autumn leaf? Where do you have to go below the surface of an existing longer term significant other relationship? Where is there a pull to go underneath to see the darker parts of it? To explore what's underneath the surface, because that's Pluto underneath the surface. Now, as Venus comes into, though, that tighter square Friday through Sunday into the end of this week to Pluto, well, then you're really coming up against some stuff to do with your career path. You're trying to power up since 2008 in transformative, powerful, and wealthy ways in your career. You've probably been very focused, Capricorn, on resourcefulness and making money since 2008, and that's been a goal. And now Venus, the goddess of money herself, in the house of significant others, like clients, like audience, is pushing against Pluto. Now, it could be so many things. You might need to take a serious look at your quest for, striving for material resources and gain at the cost of what? Enjoyment, deeper connection, love, romance with significant people in your life, the pleasure of significant others in your life, pushed against that Pluto tyranny to dominate your career space, to be the top of the game financially or by power and reputation in some sort of career space. Now, I have a sun and moon here natally. I can speak to that. Like literally, I'm taking all of January off. I mean, I'm reflecting already on the need to sort of let go of the drive to be popular, to find more subscribers, to push my stuff into the world. So I'm just giving me as an example. I need to soften a bit here into like, yeah, I need to spend time with my man. I need to spend time with my people that I really enjoy. And I just had a really good discussion with that last night with someone whose home I'm staying in. So there's a point at which you need to surrender something here. It could be your outreach to your audience marketplace clients. It could be your drive for wealth and power, but there's a super intense weekend ahead on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where you're really facing that challenge one way or the other. And that's about it. Don't forget, this is a story that happens potentially, with the Venus South Node every 18 years. But with the Pluto story, you haven't had this in your life. So you're coming into a deeper alignment, because ultimately Venus and Pluto can create great wealth together. But this is saying, what do you need to let go of to create great wealth, the trillionaire energy, by coming into a deeper harmony with what spiritually and truly matters to you in life. All right, Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. This comes into the story here for you of a Venus South Node conjunction on Wednesday. So you start to feel it Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Where are you needing to let go of a job, a work situation, a relationship to a karmic debt relationship where it doesn't really feel right anymore and you're still stuck in it. Maybe you need to let go of a pet. It sounds weird, but South Node Venus can be something about releasing an animal, a domestic pet for some reason, coming to a place of surrender around that relationship. Maybe the pet's too big for your house and you realize it's not happy there. You're going to find a happy home. Venus and the South Node here, though, it is a house to do with your health, especially on the axis of 6-12, addictions and self-undoing. And this can be a real critical turning point, not only coming up Wednesday, but into the weekend, where you're facing a deeper drive and desire to squarely look at where it is that you have shadow work undealt with that drives you to pleasures that are no longer supporting your health, emotional, mental, or spiritual. There can be a big turning point around self-sabotaging behaviors or addictions coming through this week for many Taurus, sun, moon, and especially rising sign. But a lot of times the sixth house can just be about basic health matters, and Venus can be about health connected to Libra, the kidneys, for example, or the kidneys are Libran, and finding a better balance because kidneys represent fear in body symbology, releasing fear that can lead to health problems with your lower back or kidneys perhaps, but also Venus here can be about, what are the pleasures of your work, and where do you need to go deeper and find what do you find pleasurable or enjoyable about the work, the workplace, the people you work with, the situations of your employer stories. Now, some of you may not have those things. You may not be working at all. So then I go back to health, domestic animals, finally, rental situations. Are you a landlord or a leasee, a tenant? This is the house that represents those things. And so there may be a possibility that you might be looking at a change of your situation this week about where you want to live, regarding either being a landlord renting a property or being a tenant wanting to look at different options. And, sometimes there's a element of the sixth house that I've noticed to do with physical debt, like owing money, or someone owes you money. And because it's a South Node Venus and she's a goddess of money, I wonder if some of you may be able to release a debt. So you're able to suddenly find the finances you needed to pay down a mortgage, pay down a credit card debt, something like that, especially with a stellium emerging this week in your eighth house of that kind of money. I always call it chunky money. And so letting go of an obligation or a debt could be occurring here for some of you at the financial level during this week ahead. Pluto up here in the ninth house is like, where are you really having to face some kind of deeper dharmic crucible? Dharma meaning like, what's the unique path you're here to follow that's in alignment with your soul, especially when it comes to harnessing some of your gifts and talents for the greater good. And I don't know, to me, it could be like Pluto is saying something like, getting comfortable. Pluto's saying something like, maybe you need to come up against father figures who tyrannical or controlling ninth house people. Maybe you need to come up against institutional structures, especially courts or legal matters, or things to do with academic situations, or even powerful people from foreign places that are coming against what you want in your enjoyment of your work, in your enjoyment or pleasure in your rental situation. So Pluto could be a person up here this week. Who are you fighting against? I mean, ninth house people are usually either professors, legal people, judges and stuff, or maybe powerful forces to do with the deepest meaning of your life. And you're really facing that, because the workhouse can be like, this is like a Starbucks job and it's not my meaning of life job and I need to figure it out. And Pluto's like, let's come up against the crucible this end of this week, and what's the meaning of your work? What do you really want to do that's meaningful, basically? Okay. But again, it could be a legal matter you're coming up against as well, especially concerning rentals. All right, I need to take a sip of my water. Hang on. Someone gnarly troll told me I was too slurpy again. I promise you I do not slurp into the mic. Hang on. I'm back. You guys try talking for hours at a time. Okay, so Gemini, sun, moon, and rising. I can relate. I have a progressed sun in Gemini. And so give me a sec. I'm just trying to get comfy for the rest of this video. Does anybody in my audience have osteoarthritis? Because I do. And this knee injury from a ski injury years ago sometimes really flares. I'm standing for my recording. So if you have any hacks, please put it in the comments below for how to, when you have an acute flare of osteoarthritis, what you do to help it. That's all natural. Thank you. So I can relate to you, Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign, because I have a progressed sun in Gemini from my Aries natal. So I always listen to myself talk about you. So here we go. Number one, not seeing don't forget rare sky, 1700s, and hope you watched the intro. There's parts of the sky that's once in a lifetime, right? Unless you're going to live till 2042, and some of you will. So what we have going on, well, that's the South Node Venus. That's not even the Pluto thing. You won't get the Pluto in this life. So let's go ahead. You're softening, surrendering, releasing, letting go of a lack of balance in your relationship to your children, in your relationship to fertility and pregnancy. This is fifth house stuff. In your relationship to your sexuality, romance, and love. Now, if you're in a relationship already and you want to engage in romantic partnership stuff in this week ahead, this could go very deep. You might find a transcendent, mystical, magical, and spiritual access point to what we would call, I guess, sacred sexuality. Reminds me of that song by Sting, Sacred Love. Go Google Sting and Sacred Love. So there's something about sacred love possible. But here, Venus is also the goddess of pleasure in the house of her joy. She's a fertility placement here as well. You could conceive a soulmate baby, by the way. But she's also in her joy house, where she wants to really thrive and go for it and have, a party and enjoy the pleasures of life. And the South Node is draining those pleasures away. She can't pull it up. She can't get the party going. So what's really really happening is you're facing some draining of joy. And that's going to be true till 25 as the South Node moves through this part of your sky. And so as there's kind of a leakage or a drain in the enjoyment, joie de vivre of your life, Venus is sitting here trying to tussle it out with the South Node. So look at your life this Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday about why this is true. Are you not enjoying your romantic life? You know, if you start a romance under this, you start dating someone with a Venus conjunct South Node, it's probably more like I met my soulmate, okay, from another life. But if you're in an existing relationship, there's a feeling this week that you may not be able to achieve the amount of romantic affection, pleasure, and attention to each other that you would normally get as well, unless it goes deeply mystical and magical like sacred love. And Venus here might be some situation with one of your children that's ongoing or happening during this week, especially at Wednesday, where they're going through a difficult time and you're sort of being able to witness and support them, because this South Node Venus energy does trine your Gemini ascendant or sun or moon. So it's not that difficult. This is not the worst development for you. Okay. Remember, I gave you other dates and it last happened in 2005, August. So I don't know if anyone can remember 2005, August, but I should have said that for all signs. Last seen in August of 2005 and then back then in 87, 86. So these things keep repeating. Where is there a letting go, a releasing in your life around love and pleasure, enjoyment, play? And this week, as we move to the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Oh, and if you're an entrepreneur and you're a creative person, like an artist or singer or musician or writer, songwriter, or anything like that, Venus here, South Node, you could definitely go very deep and almost channel some profoundly spiritual, awakened kind of content. It reminds me of, I don't know if anybody ever read the book, The Red Tent, or that was almost like she channeled like women in the patriarchal culture of the ancient world. But anyway, what was I saying? It is a fertility transit too, and I wouldn't be afraid of it. South Node just means soulmate baby if you're trying to have one. But if you're an entrepreneur, this is also some kind of having to let go of something in your entrepreneurial endeavors. It's not bringing you the pleasure you want. You're out of balance. You're out of harmony here, and you may have to release or surrender something entrepreneurially, and with your business model. And also, I would say, looking at this Pluto square, well, Pluto is like, okay, where's that chunky money? We want to get rich over here. We want to get the leverage we need, the loans, the business loans, the venture capital. We want to pay off our credit card debts. We want our taxes to go really well on our behalf. Let's incorporate or something. Pluto up here, though, can be very much about dark secrets. Shame, betrayal, abandonment stuff, a family of origin secrets, all the darker stuff, right? I can't say those words here without getting banned on YouTube, but, inappropriate conduct amongst family members. So, the secrets that are not yours, that they may come from your family, you don't even know about them, can be a part of what might be happening here. Because this is like, you haven't had this in your life. So there's some kind of deeper, darker kind of sexual or inappropriate energy in your family of origin that you didn't know about. This looks like it could reveal that to you this week, especially as the weekend approaches and we're looking at Friday through Sunday. For some of you Geminis, dark sexual secrets are emerging from your family of origin. It could be coming from a sibling. It could be coming from, a parent or grandparent. Stories are emerging. But on the other hand, Venus wants to be rich, and so does Pluto, and the two of them are in a square. This is a wealth yoga if it was more flowy. So where can you wealth up? By letting go of things that don't bring you true pleasure and joy, and you're facing that question mark this coming weekend, Friday through Sunday, where you're really in the crucible of that. But I'd say you feel a lot of that question mark all of this week, because with this Pluto transit, you won't have Pluto back in your chunky money house until, well, he'll be back in September, October, and November next fall, but after that, not again in this life. So this is coming into a turning point energy, a crucible of how you can be really wealthy through something that you deeply enjoy and is spiritually satisfying. Venus South Node in the house of creativity, entrepreneurship, joy, fun, play, and pleasure. And lastly, if you conceive a child under this is someone like Grandpa Joe or, Great Aunt Sally coming back. Pluto in the house of death, the South Node, this is in comes a family relative. Don't be afraid. It's all good. All right, let's keep going. Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Venus, South Node last seen in 2005, fall, August, 1986, 87, August, September. So a rare event coming together in your fourth house of home, property, land, and real estate, family of origin, childhood, and ancestral stuff. This is something very profound here because Venus is angular to you and squaring your Sun, Moon, or Rising. Therefore, you're having a critical turning point regarding the themes I've just mentioned, but you have to let go or surrender or release something or someone or some situation in the home. And you may not be enjoying your home life because this South Node transit can make you feel depleted in the home. But on the other hand, the South Node here can actually have you change your home through to 2025 and release, surrender your home to find a new one, especially if your floating IC is in your fourth house. Now, this again, did you change homes in 2005, August? Did you change homes in, 86, 87, August, September? These sorts of themes have happened before. However, deeper energies are at work here because Venus down here can be about females in the home. So do you have a woman in your home? Are you living with a roommate, a sibling? Are you a man? And this could be a female you live with called your partner. So that person just may be going through a hard time in the home. They're going through a difficulty in your home, in the home. But, finding enjoyment, pleasure, play, and fun in the home is going to be your challenge over the next year or so anyway, until 2025 January. Venus here is putting an accent on that. Where is this pleasure, balance, harmony, peace, ease, and fun in the home? And what do you need to do to acquire it? What do you need to let go of so that you can find that balance that you're really looking for? And with Pluto in the marriage house or the client house or the significant public or audience house or business partner, and legal contracts. You may be looking at what legal contract you need to break in order to find more pleasure in your home. You may be looking at what friendships you need to let go of that are significant to you, what relationships in love that are long-term, that are coming into a real deep power struggle as Friday, Saturday, and Sunday come along. Pluto here can be your significant other in business or love, or a particularly powerful or wealthy customer client, and they're really putting a gritty energy against what Venus wants to do in the fourth house. I can make a funny story about it. Like imagine you had a client who insisted on seeing you, even though you're determined to take a vacation and enjoy your home, a staycay, and you're just having to fight against that person's willpower, Pluto. But it's a transgenerational planet. So some of you Cancers may be facing some kind of really profound release and surrender around the deepest soulful part of you that comes right down to the bottom of the sky. The fourth house is your midnight of the sky. The one who wants to, really create the sanctuary, the nest, the home, who wants to keep the best of his or her childhood stories and aspects and trash the rest. So possibly the values your mother and father instilled in you, Venus values, South Node letting go. I think some Cancers are letting go of deeply held, deeply entrenched familial stories to do with what your family valued and you no longer value, especially as it applies to the people you meet in the workplace as clients, audience, and other, but also in terms of marriage. Lastly, remember how Rand Butler said betrayal is an issue with Venus square Pluto? So I don't want this for you, but if you're in a long-term relationship, there may be some coming into the end of this week, into the weekend, some disclosures around situations of betrayal within a longer-term committed love relationship where the secrets and the betrayals are revealed. And what you do with that is what matters, right? Because you're unwinding some stories from the ancestors, maybe in the family of origin. Like it could be like, even if my partner cheats, I stick in there because we value endurance. And you're like, wait, I think I'm revising that story. I don't think so anymore. All right. Keep it in mind. It's all possible. Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. Well, obviously this is going to be a story, obviously last seen in 2005 and again in 86, 87. So go back to then, those times, August of 2005 and then August, September of 86 and 87, when the South Node and Venus co-joined in your third house. And this is a house of siblings. This is a house of short distance travel, skills-based education and learning, like getting a real estate license or something. This is also the third house of writing or communicating. And right now in our modern world, because it used to be periodicals and magazines, it is blogs, websites, social media platforms, and all of that. Now, Venus South Node can mean you need to let go or surrender or release something difficult with a sibling, particularly younger than you. You may also have to change some kind of travel plans that you were thinking of doing, but it's also your neighborhood and your neighbors, right? And so South Node here transit for a lot of Leo rising sun and moon can lead to a new neighborhood situation over the next year and a half. So there is that that unfolding South Node transit where you may change your neighborhood, significant change of home in neighborhood stories. But now Venus is like, well, we want some joy, fun, play, and pleasure. And because this is often like the shops, the restaurants, and the bars in your neighborhood, the third house, the sort of local environs, you're having this sort of disappointment, surrender, let go energy coming through the sky around Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so it can be a very simple transit, but it's deeper than that, right? It's very destined. So it can be a critical turning point for a Leo in situations of your local environment and people you would socialize with. And a kind of a need to let it go or release it. Maybe the types of people you normally socialize with are no longer relevant or germane, and you want to let go of those types of folks. You could have a really difficult time this week, especially on the weekend with a neighbor, right? Or a younger sibling, as that square to Pluto emerges. So squaring Pluto is like, are you fighting with a neighbor or the neighbor arguing with you or a sibling to do with matters of the sixth house? Now, the sixth house is a pet. Like, did your dog rampage through their property and destroy the garden? But, if it's not that, the deeper level is this. Let's go deeper than the circumstances. Everything is always deeper than the circumstances. Pluto wants to transform the work you're here to do in the world. That's his joyful transit through your sixth house. You want to be of service. You want to find destined and work that's not duty and drudgery. You want to find the path for your truest, joy in the work you're here to do. Service, work, seva, whatever. And, then you've been trying to figure that out since 2011. Now he's having this square to Venus who wants pleasure. He wants to be enjoying what's going on here. And I would say it's something to do with, because the third house does involve communicating, writing, and ideating. You might have to let go of some projects of writing, communicating, social media, your website, or things that you were trying to achieve in a local neighborhood, and release, surrender, let go, so that you can find a greater power and empowerment in the work you're here to do in the world that brings you a great authentic sense of alignment with inner and deep sources of power and wealth within you. And I kind of like that Venus is with the South Node here if you've had a difficult relationship with a younger sibling, because this can be a desire to find a new level of balance through letting go. So, not knowing what that could be like for you with a sibling who's younger, especially maybe female, you may have to recalibrate, the scales here, so that you are in a greater authentic place regarding that relationship. And especially if that relationship is in any way karmic or destined because of both Pluto in the house of karmic debt relationships and the South Node with Venus in the house of younger sibling. And lastly, again, because Pluto is in the house of pets, South Node Venus with the neighbors or the local environment, either you could get a new soulmate pet from a pet shop, go for it, or it brings a great deal of power to your life and well-being, or you may find yourself having to, somehow deal with a difficult situation with a domestic animal. All right, Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign, last seen in 2005, August, last seen at 86, 87. August, September. Where's the last times you lived through a South Node Venus conjunction in your second house of money and earnings? A lot of Virgos are looking at letting go of any kind of earnings strategies that they don't find pleasurable, enjoyable, or satisfactory, or even properly wealthy enough, right? Venus is trying to find balance, harmony, and equilibrium in the kinds of money and resources you have. Because the second house also involves the face and your jaw and Venus's beauty, you may want to eliminate, release, or let go of something around that. You may say, I'm going to let go of that mole. It's too ugly on my face, or I'm going to get my teeth fixed because I'm letting go of having, bad teeth or something like that. But also I wouldn't do necessarily by choice kind of any intense plastic surgery here, because the South Node could give you disappointing results. But haircut, some facial rejuvenation that doesn't have a lot of intensity could work for you this week. But warning, I wouldn't do anything major, really, with the South Node on Venus together. Your voice is here, and you want to speak beautifully and pleasurably and be convincing and persuasive when people experience a transit here. South Node is probably you don't care anymore. Your second house is also your values, it's also your possessions. You may sell or let go of a possession that was very valuable to you at one point. Let go, release that, that car, that house, or that thing, that object of which at one point brought you joy and delight and no longer does. give away, sell. Venus South Node, though, can also be about a value that you held, especially around self-worth, but also just a value that you held and you no longer want to hold on to that value. And so you may let go of that in this week ahead, especially around Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when the South Node conjunction is quite acute. You could just let go of a job, you see, because, the way we make money is through the reception of funds through the second house to our first house beingness. And so you may have quit a job, surrender a job, let go of a job, anytime this week, Wednesday through to the weekend, time to let it go. And if you do let it go, it's okay, because you're not bringing you the pleasure, satisfaction, or financial well-being that you really desire. With Pluto squaring from your fifth house, well, you could have a real intense, difficult circumstance arise with a sexual or lover, romantic partner. With Saturn in your seventh house through to 26, any long-term significant relationships are under a bit of a testing period to see if they're going to make it or not, if they're going to go the distance. And then you add this Pluto in the house of sexuality squaring Venus. Now, don't forget, we have betrayal with Pluto square Venus, or that kind of thing. And also toxic love. So we're looking at toxic love and betrayal type stories, fatal attractions, obsessions, and jealousies that could emerge. It doesn't have to be your jealousy. Maybe your partner's experiencing these jealousies or intensities if it involves romantic or sexual jealousies and stuff like that. It's not an easy week, therefore, especially as you move into the weekend and the Pluto square becomes more active. Pluto here is in the house of your children. You may have an intense, difficult conversation or interactions with your children this week, especially around finances and money. That could show up, and there's a lot of tension around what you want to do or give to support a child, adult, maybe child, or older child. And around power, control, and struggles for power and control and money. Finally, Pluto in your fifth house can be like you're an artist, a creative, and that kind of thing, or an entrepreneur. Pluto has an agenda for your financial well-being as an artist, creative, or entrepreneurial person in that fifth house to make you quite wealthy. And a lot of Virgo risings who were entrepreneurial, I have a best friend who is a Virgo rising, got very wealthy since Pluto moved into that fifth house in 2008. She's a real estate person, and Pluto's still trying to gin up that wealth. And then Venus is like, I'm not having any fun. Like, no, I'm going to let go of some of my earnings in order to find deeper satisfaction, enjoyment, and align with my deepest and more true values. So there's that as well. Okay, let's keep going. One more thing. Your natural talents and abilities that you were born with can align with the fifth house. Pluto wants to power those up. Venus wants to find enjoyment in money and possessions. So moving into alignment with what your natural abilities and talents are can very much be what the sky is trying to do, but it feels gritty and tense, and you have to sort of surrender into it this week. All right, Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. This is a Venus, who's the ruler of you, in the house of you, letting go, surrendering, and releasing something to do with you, your identity, basically. How you see yourself and the world sees you is under surrendered release. And this is true all the way through till January of 21 with the South Node. But this combination of Venus here last happened for you very personally in August of 2005. So go back to that time frame. It also would have been felt by you in August of 86 and September of 87. Where did you need to release something and let go of something? And it can be a significant relationship because Venus is looking over at the marriage house, or let go of a significant client or significant friendship in your life. Venus here wants balance and harmony, and you haven't been having it. And now your South Node is trying to help release all the things that don't bring you personal health balance, personal mental, emotional well-being. And this week is bringing that to your attention, especially Wednesday. And then later in the week, we get the square to Pluto. Pluto is like, I've got something to do down here with power, land, home, real estate, ancestral land, family of origin stuff, betrayal, shame, bad things that happen in families to do with darker subjects of sexuality are playing out through that fourth house, forbidden topics, forbidden love. And you're looking at your family of origin, ancestral line stuff here really squarely, Libra, and asking yourself what was maybe inappropriate in that ancestral or familial line. You may be coming to terms with some darker secrets that your family of origin and ancestral line holds around money, power, and sexuality. However, if there is also anything to be saying about this, Pluto's been trying to wealth you up through property, home, land, real estate, and legacy wealth since 2008. And Venus right here is squaring off off with him, and she's not agreeing so much about it. So it could be that, like, I can make a story like a family member wants to give you money with strings attached, like mom or dad or grandpa, and you don't agree with the values of the strings anymore. And so you say no, you forfeit your trust fund or something. You need to sell a property that is not bringing you joy and enjoyment, and you realize the wealth isn't worth it because you're not having a sense of satisfaction or harmony regarding this property or home or land. So that can come up this week as well. Ultimately, though, look for some stories coming out of the darker underbelly of your family of origin or ancestral line, or that you are uncovering them, or they're being uncovered and displayed for you this week, especially as you move to the weekend where the Pluto square becomes very, very intense. Alrighty. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. This is a story that happened in 2005 August, also 86 August and 87 September, where this South Node Venus co-joined in your 12th house. This is really good for getting rid of addictions. If you got a self-undoing, self-sabotaging type pattern or habit or addiction, a substance abuse or dependency, Venus South Node says, let's let go of this pleasure. It's not working for us anymore. This is your bed pleasures house. South Node is spiritual moksha, liberation stuff in this house especially. So you could have a transcendent movement towards deeper sexual communion with somebody in your life, in your bed pleasure zone, coming up this Wednesday, as well as through to the weekend. If you do need to let go of an addiction, though, that is the ideal thing to do during this transit. And you might find that whether you want to let go of it, it lets go of you. What do I mean? Well, it could be that you just hit a wall because something about this situation is untenable, like the hangover from hell that you almost lose your job, or, or something like that. So be cautious. You don't have to go on that route, but you may. Finally, if you want to get revenue internationally through foreign shores and lands, PayPal, Stripe accounts, and all of that stuff, Venus could help you do that, but the South Node is letting go of something. You might have to surrender a foreign or international revenue source. Sometimes also Venus here could say pleasure by moving to a foreign land, surrendering, letting go. Maybe a foreign land is not bringing you the pleasure you thought it would, and you need to reframe that this week. Because there's a square to Pluto in the third house, trips and travels to do with short distance or international are going to be coming into the story, especially Wednesday and then on the weekend with a square to Pluto. And you may be looking at some needing to let go of a foreigner relationship and love, a foreign travel plan, or some connection to a sibling, particularly younger, that's going to want to dominate or control or be the boss, have the power, the will to control something that you will value or treasure, maybe regarding foreigners, foreign lands, long distance trips and travel. Especially, the travel part, both 3 and 12 can involve foreign shores or travel. So I can see some kind of dissipation of a travel situation where you thought you wanted to do this and you realize you can't or won't or can't or shouldn't. If I go really deeper under the surface around the third house, I mean, if you have an IC floating in your third house, there can be a desire to change your home this week, and it may indeed unfold either this year or next fall. So keep that in mind. Younger siblings who are powerful or controlling can be a story that you've been dealing with, or something to do with transforming a relationship with a younger sibling and in value with what you care about. And lastly, Venus here is in the house of hidden enemies on the South Node. Sometimes women are not your friends during a transit like that. So be careful for betrayals by women in the local environment, neighborhood, or in the family of origin, including cousins or siblings. A feeling of being betrayed perhaps by that kind of person this week. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. This is a Venus transit last seen with the South Node in Libra in 2005 August, then again in 1986 August and 1987 September. With Venus here, in your 11th house of good spirit, she's with the South Node. Normally, I like her up here for like rewards, perks, promotions, and greater career gains, but she's also with the South Node. And where, even until 2025, are you letting go of those ambitious desires and goals around maybe greater success in your career and financial reward, but also your friends? South Node is letting go of friends and allies and groups of belonging. And Venus says, are you having fun? Do you enjoy these friends? Do you enjoy this elder sibling relationship? If you don't, it's time to release and surrender. We can divorce our family, apparently. So harmony and balance isn't there in those friendships. Those groups that you belong to don't bring you satisfaction. And this week you're squarely looking at it, particularly Wednesday way, and you're really focused on, is this a let go situation? A friend can let go of you and it's to your benefit, actually. As you come into the weekend and there's a square, or you can let go of some of your deeper values and dreams and hopes and wishes around what you thought was something worthy of your attention, like your 5-year plan, and you may be revising those. But you also can get let go of a love relationship here too, because this is the house of relationships that are based on friendship. So, sometimes some love relationships are more like buddies, hanging out, bros and sisters. And so you might just be letting go, realizing this isn't the relationship for me. That's a possibility. And as a square to Pluto emerges, there can be conflict about money, particularly resource earnings and possessions with some significant other, an elder sibling, a love relationship with someone who feels more like your friend than your lover, with some female who betrays you in a friendship or love situation, secret and forbidden love, but it all goes back to money, resources, earnings, possessions. I mean, I can make up all kinds of stories, but it could be like you find out that the person you're with is just after your money. You're a sugar mama or sugar daddy for them, and you're deeply disappointed when you realize what's really happening. For example, if there's jealousy in a relationship with, the story, it could be that somebody's jealous that you're spending time with a friend instead of them. And then Pluto can represent harsh, difficult conversations in the house of speech. But also Pluto can be about revealing secrets and what conversations can emerge here with a love or friendship situation that go under the surface to find out what's really going on. Pluto's been trying to power you up financially since 2008 and get you to look at the deeper layers of power, money, and wealth, and the love of money and the love of wealth. And now you're having a conflict with the goddess of financial goodness herself, Venus. So you could have a deep disappointment in a money story coming up this week. Sorry, Sagittarius, but it's going to feel like maybe someone let you down. Some person who was supposed to be a benefactor, an ally in your life, acting like an elder bro or sister, kind of disappoints you deeply and is moving you into a deeper relationship to your own empowerment and power when it comes to money and earnings. Like someone had a favor for you and said no thanks at the end of the day, or they said no, I changed my mind. Moving into a Capricorn sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, Venus last seen in 2005, August, 86 and 87, August, September, is a South Node transit with Libra in your 10th house of career and reputation. What were you letting go of back then? Surrendering, releasing that didn't work for you in that career and reputation and ambition and success part of your sky, because the 10th house is your status in the world. I was married, I'm divorced, I'm single, I'm widowed, whatever. Those things can be happening here. A change of status in the world, visibly seen by the world. Jane, she's no longer married or something, getting your final divorce decree. So you might go back to 2005 and 86, 87 fall to see what kinds of narratives have played out there. But you could let go of a career path. Are you having any enjoyment here? Are you finding pleasure? Is it financially remunerative? Do you really want to stay there? And a lot of you may look at squarely leaving your job behind. You've got the power. You are Pluto. And as the weekend approaches, you've got all the potency. You've got the control, the will, the domination energies within you. You are saying, no, let go of that career, job, reputation story. It's no longer valuable to me. It's not bringing me a sense of pleasure, enjoyment, prosperity, whatever. So you're letting go of something up there. And, Venus letting go with the South Node is looking ultimately for a deeper spiritual union with reality, moksha and liberation. And so you may deeply let go, not just of a job, but of a way of being in the world in terms of how you wish to be seen as successful. And you may be deeply revising what success means to you, so that the world no longer matters about what they think matters. It's what you think that matters. So I think there's a kind of a wholesale letting go of an older idea of who you should power up to be in this world. All right. Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising. I am one of you. Go back to 2005. There was this transit. Oh, I just had a terrible thought. Yes, I am recording. 2005, there was this transit in August, and also 86 and 87 in August and September, respectively, where South Node Venus co-joined in your 9th house of higher learning and academics, situations of visas, foreign lands, and travel, connections to courts and legal matters, connections to foreigners and foreign people, connections to books and book publishing. I will use me as an example because I can now remember what I was doing in 86 and 87. First of all, I did travel extensively, Egypt and Greece. And so South Node can be traveling to places that are karmically connected to other lives. Okay. So there's that. You may have an opportunity to plan a trip or take a trip during this week with this Venus South Node transit, but you also may release, surrender, and let go of what matters in that ninth house. So ninth house can be deeper than just academic settings, for example. It can be that too. Like in 2005, I ditched out and, is that 2005? Yeah, I ditched out and quit a transpersonal master's program in psychology and didn't finish it, right? Let go of the program, decided I didn't want to do it. I had gotten 2 years into it. So there's that kind of thing, right? But you can also really let go of something dharmic. Like, the idea here is Venus, it says, align with the balance, harmony, and pleasure and joy of what matters to you, what feels true around the dharmic path of your life. Where are you meant to go to be of service, to use your gifts and talents in the world? What is the deeper meaning of being on the earth? That kind of thing. Why are you even incarnated? And ninth house of gods brings up those questions and hopefully answers. And Venus is like, time to revise your spiritual beliefs, your philosophy, your religion, time to let go of an old way of seeing yourself in this matrix and figure out who you really are. This is acute in the month, during the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So surrender, release, let go for sure. Third, marriages can be involved in the ninth house. So third, long-term committed marriage-like relationships are going through a deep spiritual surrender or revision during this week. And then we have Pluto squaring off as the weekend approaches through Friday to Sunday. That's not an easy time, but it has to do with your deeper, soulful 12th house matters. Power through foreign shores and foreign and international revenue has been available to you since 2008. I can speak to that, PayPal, Stripe. And now Venus says Dharma, alignment, joy, pleasure, meaning of life. So you're coming to a crucible here this coming weekend of December 3rd, where you're really going to find a revision. You could find also you have a letting go of some philosophy or spiritual tradition that was no longer works for you in order to liberate yourself to the highest level of spiritual enlightenment or attainment. That's possible this coming weekend. There's luck in the ninth house, and there's also wealth in the ninth house. It's a Lakshmi house, but you're also letting go and surrendering, but there's also destiny there, and Pluto is power and wealth. There may be something emerging that's difficult, but potent around wealth, turning points in your wealth this coming weekend. And you maybe saw those turning points again in 86, 87. In 1986, I married my father and my children during the time this happened, actually it was August, in order to get a visa to live in the United States in New York City, because that's where we were moving. So you find that there's turning points in significant love relationships that are very karmic to do with foreign places, foreign lands, foreign travel, or foreign residency. For some of you, you're facing that crucible this week, and you're looking at the whether this is in alignment with what Venus wants for you to have balance and harmony. Finally, legal matters, letting go, surrendering. The judge isn't going to necessarily see it your way. You might have to surrender it. There's a deeper karmic story going on. You're trying to align with power to enlighten yourself and to get out of this matrix according to Pluto. So if you have a court battle that's not working, fine. Or a publisher who says, no, we changed your mind on your book, or an agent who says you can't shop this baby after all, there's a little let go, let God going on in your ninth house this week through to the weekend with that square to Pluto. And finally, last and always best, first and always most charming, Pisces, sun, moon, and rising. I didn't even say all through this thing, hit the like button, subscribe. If you're in the live premiere, you're my regulars. Thank you. This is one of the craziest busy days that I'm doing this recording on a Sunday. It's you guys, a class, and 2 clients, and a Negroni. All right, moving into Pisces, sun, moon, and rising. This is a sky which last occurred in 2005, August, and then 1986, August, and September of 87. Venus South Node transit through your 8th house. Your 8th house is chunky money. Your 8th house is stuff to do with, your resources, your speculative investments, your stocks, your 401k, your crypto, your wallet, all of that stuff, your money you share with your partner, business and love, and taxes and all of that kind of stuff, credit cards. So Venus is here, surrender, let go, release. What do you no longer need? What are you supposed to let go of? That has to do with that money story. It's time to let it go for sure. Like you may be letting go of what you value. Maybe you're letting go of dependency on those kinds of resources because, the North Node with Chiron is healing a money story that began to be wounded for you around earnings in 2019. And that's healing this year in 2024. Now, get my all signs bundle for that. And yet Venus is saying, well, you have to let go here. Like, no, you can't live off of this kind of savings money, investment money, resources that don't belong to you necessarily, or inheritance money. So you're going to surrender, release, let go of what you think is imbalanced here. And you need to find balance. And so you do want to go back and look at how that might have played out in the past. Because there's a square to Pluto, or sexual secrets being, released can happen with Venus here. But the square to Pluto as the weekend approaches also brings into the story elder sibling, 12th house, 11th house stuff, windfalls and pennies from heaven, and situations to do with your dreams and wishes for your life, and powerful, wealthy people who can act as benefactors and allies to support you in this world. And all that Pluto transit through the 11th house probably gave you a great deal of financial success starting in 2008 in terms of your career and your greater gains, independent of the chironic wound that started in 2019. And now Pluto is like, okay, a powerful friend, rich ally, older sister brother type person or older sister brother is coming into the narrative. There is a square. It is tense. Who's got the power? Who's got the control? This is coming up on the weekend. But ultimately, Venus wants you to have some wealth and balance and harmony in your 8th house of chunky money. She just needs you to let go of something. There's something you could sell a stock. You could sell a property. You could let go of a psychological, emotional dependency on money that you didn't earn or are not earning. And, I have a Pisces rising sister and I'm looking at that for her and I'm like, oh, I wonder what that'll be. She's definitely going to move back into hustle in her psychic readings business. She's a great Raven's Eye Oracle tarot reader, but where has she been too dependent on like trust funds or government stipends or grants or husband's money? She's having to release and let go of that, I think. So just giving you an example. So if there is a secret that's coming out, because this is a house of secrets, the 8th house, to do with sexuality, love, romance, and money, it could be a secret that involves somebody that is in a sibling situation or somebody who's an ally or benefactor to you, and you're finding out something that you didn't know. You may feel a little bit disappointed when you discover it, or it could have been like a wealthy person or elder sibling promising you something, then disappointing you, and you realize you have to kind of hustle for yourself anyway. North Node of the 2nd house, a lot of Pisces have to move on and get their own shit together. And I say that with a lot of love because I know 3 Pisces, or 4 now in my life, who are also looking at how they can move into a vocational, values-driven flow around independence in financial situations. And so I see that with a lot of Pisces clients as well. And this is your time through to 2025 to really wealth up. And you'll see what I mean when you get there. I love it for you guys, especially, oh my God, especially when when Jupiter goes into Gemini in 2024, that's going to really change your money story dramatically for the better. All right, I'm done. I hope that was useful. I'm going to go teach a class. Everyone, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It does help the channel grow. Big hugs to all of you, and I'll see you in my next video.